Sahana bhavatu, sahano bhunuktu, saha viryam karavavahai, tejasvinavaditam astu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. May that one protect us both. May that one nourish us both. May we work together with great energy. May our studies be illumined. May we not unnecessarily cover with each other. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. So, we have a topic before us. What is faith? I suppose one reason why this is very important is because we hear complaints, particularly in the Western world, about people losing their faith or having lack of faith. And of course, we can take it in the broadest possible way, and we can use some alternative terms. I suppose synonymous with the word faith is also trust. And another word that is being used is belief. So it seems to me that there's a whole range, when we ask what is faith, a whole range of meanings which are available to us. And we can put it down a scale. The lowest scale, that is with the lowest amount of inputs, would be blind faith. What is blind faith? You tell me something, I blindly believe it. I don't question you. Now there could be a basis for that, namely that I trust you implicitly. Or there could be a laziness in that. Yes, I trust you because I can't be bothered to work it out myself, and I can't ask you what, where, why, when, how, and apply my mature reasoning to it. So that's at the one end of the scale. Other end of the scale will be unwavering conviction from your own direct experience. And most of our faith is like that. For example, we don't doubt that the sun will rise tomorrow. We don't doubt that the sun will set. But we can doubt whether it will be a rainy day, cloudy day, a hot day. I suppose the meteorological office can also serve to assist us in predicting these things as well, and we can trust that. But our own practical experience says that what we experience in terms of what is called qualia, subjectively unprovable, only we know it. For example, what did you dream last night? I can tell you what I dreamt, but you've no evidence for it. You've no proof beyond what I'm saying. Is it true? Is it not? You have no way of telling. Only I know, the dreamer. Or supposing I say that I love you, put it like that. Well, what is love? You have no way of knowing, other than what you yourself are experiencing. You can't define it. You can't put it into a bucket and measure it. You can't give a quantity of it away. There are some intangible things that we know are true on the basis that we ourselves have experienced it. So direct experience is the validation, really, of faith in its unwavering conviction context. But blind faith is heavily criticized. It's criticized by Swami Purnananda left and right because it amounts to superstition. Why should you believe something? And when somebody dogmatically follows a path, be it in the realm of science, that is today called scientism, or be it in the realm of religion, we always have to bear in mind Swami Vivekananda's magnificent statement. First of all, each soul is potentially divine. He makes that statement. It's the most marvelous, succinct statements where we can say directly in a few brief sentences what the purpose in life is, what the goal of life is, how we should go about tackling it. All of that is described, and how we should put things in perspective. Each soul is potentially divine. Let's examine that carefully. How do we know that each soul is potentially divine? What do we mean by soul? It means every individual that exhibits some life, and it's potentially divine. Now, this includes not just human beings, although it's designed for human beings to understand, But if it only applies to human beings, it's all right, we can take it in this way. But potential divinity. Now, in two places, Katha Upanishad and Bhagavad Gita, we're told about an ancient fig tree whose branches are below and whose roots are above. And that this represents what we call samsara. Samsara means the whole range of experience, some of which we know, very little, some of which are hidden and unknown. And a vast majority is beyond our scope. But we have rationale as a basis for understanding it. Inasmuch as what happens as a law of nature on the microcosm will happen on the macrocosm. That's why the ancient seers would have investigated life per se by taking one small sample of it. You don't have to take samples of the entire universe. James Webb Telescope has now been launched. Anticipation about the clarity and also about the depth of vision has been widely broadcast. And now it seems we have gotten some pictures. One picture is like mountains and valleys. Somebody sent it to me. Mountains and valleys. And it's actually a whole nebulae which is there, consisting of stars in their formation, going back billions and billions of years. That means new stars are being formed independently because there is enough hydrogen and there is enough gravitational pull on it to make these things, to produce some radiation, some ultra radiation, and also some cosmic dust. And what is being pictured is that. And if we were to measure from end to end in its height, it spans 7 light years. Light travels at 186,000 miles per second. Or if you prefer, you can convert it to kilometers, of course. And that is how many seconds, you times that by how many seconds there are in a year. That's 1 light year. And then times 7. It's an enormous amount. The vastness of our universe is huge, and yet we're unable to directly see it for ourselves. So some kind of inference also has to be there where we trust an authority. And then if we really want to get meaning from such a thing, we can make it meditative. We can drink this information in and stand in awe and wonder, adoration and thankfulness at this phenomena. And what applies there in the macrocosm, bearing in mind this law, it has to be the same anywhere and everywhere, happens on the universe of cells. If I were a cell, or even if I were a part of a cell, if I were not even the nucleus of a cell, if I were not part of the nucleotide within a cell, but just even outside, then I might come to the conclusion that this universe is vast. And if I had the vision beyond the membrane, I might see trillions and trillions of other galaxies that we call cells. It's all a question of scale. So now what we have is direct experience. We have good inference. One more thing is necessary. A credible authority that can be questioned, who gives us a method for direct experience. And we take it provisionally that this is true, but we reserve the right to disagree on our own discovery. Such credible authorities are there in modern science. Such credible authorities are there also in the world of spirituality or the science of man in depth. When we look at that, we can see some credible authorities. How do we know they're credible? Because there's a consistency in what they say regardless of historical era or geographical location. Secondly, it conforms with logic and reasoning. Thirdly, it gives us a model to reproduce their findings and discover things for ourselves. And that is why this most telling thing, so have you seen God, was Naran's question. Later became Swami Vivekananda. Yes, says his master Ramakrishna, not only have I seen God, I see him more clearly than you standing there, and More importantly, you too can see him. You too can see him. We can all have that. There are no restrictions. If it happened to one person, it happened to all. If there's a person called Jesus Christ who did something, we can all do that same thing. If he knew something, we can all know the same thing. Even more so today with the technology and equipment that we have today. Jesus traveled on a donkey, but we can travel on jet airlines. The scope is much more. So we should learn and apply the lessons that he taught in a much more efficient way today. So faith, what do we say in terms of spirituality? You have to have faith. That is implicit trust in several things. First of all, in the credible authority in the form of scripture. Scripture is a record of somebody who says, this is how it is because this is what we found. This is why it is. This is the rationale. Furthermore, this is the method. Like any scientific experiment, it has to be done that way. Then, so faith in those ancient teachers equates to faith in scripture. Faith in your own foundation in two senses. In the cosmic sense of a personal God, or in the cosmic sense of an underlying indelible truth, some divine aspect which is there, some being which is there, some supreme principle which is there. Absolute faith in that. Commonly, we talk about faith in God, and this has been misconstrued because blind faith has been equated with belief. And for that reason, many modern day so-called atheists who are really agnostic, they don't believe, but they leave something open. What they are saying is this belief is unreasonable. There's no rationale in it. Nothing warrants this belief. And equate it to blind faith. Not understanding that there is a process that you need to go through. And the process is clear for everybody. Control your senses is the first thing. That means make sure that all desires, energies that we call desires, outgoing through the senses, are all nicely mastered and controlled. Considered to be avenues of energy that are more useful, developed into higher concerns, higher values. And then we have to have faith in that intimate guide that guides us. Tomorrow is Guru Purnima, and we will need to have faith in our Guru. That is absolutely essential because the Guru is God. Now, this is a difficult concept for many. How can a human be God? It's not in that sense. It's not in the physical sense. It's in the sense that, and I give this example before I'll give it again. Supposing you have a reservoir of water on top of the hill feeding a town. Supposing that is a supreme principle granting grace called water that flows along pipelines and gets delivered with a faucet or a tap. You may have many taps. And ultimately, the moving aspect of this divine grace is a cosmic mind. And that cosmic mind, or personal God, if you will, that grace flows, the grace of the water flows through the pipeline. The Guru is the faucet, making the ego an open channel for divine grace to flow everywhere without any sense of, give me a reward for it. Nothing like that. Purely given freely, only love involved, that's it. Such a faith has to be there. You will find many people saying many different things, scandalize this person and that person, but the faith in the Guru has to be unshakable. In order to gain that trust, that Guru really has to exhibit at least some knowledge of Brahman. So, because naturally, if you're an open channel for divine grace to flow, then you'll naturally be tuned into the cosmic mind completely and totally. The next is that grace. So faith in God has to be there, that cosmic mind, that cosmic principle. Faith in the scriptures has to be there as your credible authority, faith in the Guru that acts not only as credible authority, but acts as a guide, acts as a conduit for divine grace to flow. Without that, of course, the flow stops. And then finally, faith, and most importantly, faith in yourself. And when I say faith in yourself, I don't mean the superficial self. So what does Swami Vivekananda mean in his dictum? Each soul is potentially divine. Within you, at the greatest depth, is pure divinity, accessible to everybody, but potentially so. There have to be some obstacles removed for it to flow through. A realization has to dawn. And so, if we're laboring under ignorance, the antidote is obviously knowledge. And how do we get this knowledge? Again, it is this faith. Faith in Scripture, faith in Guru, faith in God, faith in yourself. What is this self? It is this self at depth. Nothing can conquer it. In the words of the Bhagavad Gita, fire cannot burn it, wind cannot dry it, or air cannot dry it. Nothing can move it on. Water cannot wet it, etc. It is that one thing that is the same in the past as it is today, as it will be 1,000 years from now. You and I will not be here in 1,000 years from now. Even in 100 years, most will be gone. So imagine now what happens. You love your house. In 1,000 years, it's probably crumbled and gone. You fight over family disputes. In 100 years, nobody will even bother. The parties concerned will not be there. In 1,000 years, a relatively short period of time, your language will have changed, as it has in the past. So, what is life? Is it completely meaningless? Things that will pass on? Or is it full of meaning, where you have to take advantage of the framework of time right here and now, put something valuable in, and access this potentiality from within? Why should you do this? The goal, each soul is potentially divine. The goal is to manifest this divinity from within. In order to understand that, you have to be conscious of this goal continuously, so that every action, every thought, every emotion will have to be dedicated to this. So each soul potentially divine, the goal is to manifest this from within, controlling. How do you do it? Controlling nature, external and internal. Well, external, we can put up a dam wall and dam water. We have the capacity to fly using our intelligence. We make aircraft. We have the intelligence to make this great James Webb telescope and see the vastness of the stars before us. Such an ingenious thing. And controlled remotely. There's the wonder. Because it's understood there's a universal current. There's a wavelength that we can tune into. In this same way, we can tune into the divine wavelength. So what about nature internal? Nature internal, well, that's the mind, that's thought. And we cannot control the one without the other. Either in a so-called secular direction or spiritual direction, everything requires concentration. So mobilizing thoughts, be a master of your own mind. When we talk about controlling desires, we're really controlling about that aspect of the mind that feels, I have some kind of empty area in me. And the answer is to fill it from the outside, instead of realizing, no, I am actually potentially divine. I'm full, I'm free. My nature is always full and overflowing. It's perfection itself. And if I see it in me, I see it everywhere in others. Then how do we control this nature, internal and external? Well, we can do it by a process. What is the process? By work or worship, by philosophy, by psychic control, one or more of these. Now the goal comes and be free. That's why we should do it, to get freedom. And as I said in previous talks, everybody wants to be free. They just don't know what true freedom is. Even considering this and knowing that there's a witnessing, knowing, thinking entity deep within me, then I will register that area is free and the rest is bound. Even making a choice is restricted to two things or more. But my integrity, my judgment, my morality, my sense of morality, my conscience, and above all, my decision-making faculty enables me to make decisions. And that's an area of freedom being applied within a limited context. What do we mean by work? We mean all activities that will never give me anxiety. Consider now, you ask somebody, how are things at work? Oh, highly pressurized, we're under-resourced. Pressure, pressure, pressure. Then what's your mental state? I can hardly eat. I feel fearful all the time. And I feel that if I'm not successful, I'll lose my job. And yet I work hours, incredible hours, to keep up and to sustain my position at the workplace. And my family aren't helping in this. When I get home, they make a lot of noise. They expect me to have leisure with them. Instead, all I want to do is sit down and relax. The difficulty is not the pressure. The difficulty is, how am I handling it? Am I handling it in such a way that life is smooth for me, that I can glide easily and naturally across all the borders of life? What do we mean by worship? We mean mobilizing those emotions within us in a higher way, in a way which is more meaningful, in a way which is deeper, which has no catches within it, no difficulties in terms of reciprocations. Love of God. This is a way, the most common way, the easiest way, according to the Bhagavad Gita, 12th chapter. What is philosophy? It means continuously making sure that the emotions are not out of control, the work is not out of control, in a measured way, deciding what is permanent, what is impermanent, catching the flow of divine grace flowing through all limbs, including these limbs here that are previously called my individuality. And then meditation. And why this jnana yoga? Why this bhakti yoga? Why this karma yoga? Because we have a willing mind, we have a thinking mind, we have a feeling mind, but we also have the capacity to harmonize these and concentrate, and that is called meditation. One or more or all of these, says Swami Vivekananda, and be free. And he's suggesting, because we're not one-sided people, we can do all of them. We can be at work. During work, we can dedicate our activities to God in a sense of love. We can do japa with a sense of love, sincerity, and also surrender. These are the qualifications for japa in any event. And then what is the evidence to me? What is the effect on me? What is the motivating urge that I have from all of this? I get pure joy from it, with no expectations. It's a wonderful thing. And then I get the idea. My life doesn't have to be doubtful. My life doesn't have to be miserable, full of pains, full of remorse. I can insert something nicely into every given moment in time, which serves to elevate the mind and elevate others around me. Why should I not take that, given a choice? So we employ all of these, and therefore the effects endorse our faith. They entrench it to a point of unwavering conviction, because it all serves to clarify and purify the mind to their degree that we now see this is the truth underneath everything. And that truth will set me free. So that is all to do with these aspects of faith. Without this faith, we have no courage. Without this true faith, we have no strength. Without these faith in these four things, our spiritual life becomes stunted. It becomes routine. How is your spiritual life, you may ask somebody? Yes, I'm doing my spiritual practice. That's been a common answer. That doesn't tell me anything. It doesn't say that the quality is improving daily. The intensity is getting more. The realization is expanding. My knowledge is getting broader. My understanding is getting greater. These are the measures of spiritual growth. So it is important that we have this great faith. Now, because of the lateness of this talk, I'm going to leave the talk as it is. Where I am in France, it is now 5 minutes to 10. And I already did a preceding talk ahead of this that went from 8:30 to nearly 9:30. So these brief ideas, what is faith? We may add to the question, why should we have faith? And I think we've explained it. We have to have faith in Scripture, faith in the Guru, faith in God, and faith in ourselves. And in order to do this, we have to have the sister qualities: strength, courage, a sense of reliance in the sense of not dependence, but letting go. If I have faith, then I can quite easily let go. And letting go is sometimes, for some people, one of the most difficult disciplines. Letting go means I have faith. Holding on means I only have faith in my own genetics or faith in my own ability. And there's faith in myself, faith in others. But when we say myself, we mean this self at depth, this glorious Atman, which is always full, always free, always perfect, enabling me to see that fullness and perfection in others, and that in that having a transforming effect, so that wherever I look, I see only divinity and glory. I don't complain, what a pity. I replace it by what a glory, what a glory. So thank you. I see there are some comments. Thank you. Right. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. Thank you.
Thank you, Swami.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Merci beaucoup, Swami.
Merci beaucoup.